What if I told you that the reason you struggle to climb stairs, get up from a chair, or feel unsteady on your feet has nothing to do with your age and everything to do with muscles you've unknowingly let fall asleep? Right now, your hip and glute muscles might be in what researchers call gluteal amnesia state, where your body literally forgets how to fire the strongest, most protective muscles it has. And here's the part that should concern you. Each year, 300,000 hip fracture-related hospitalizations happen due to falls among older adults. But here's what those statistics don't tell you. Falls cause 95% of hip fractures in older adults, yet only 1 to 2% of falls actually result in hip fracture. Think about that. Some people fall and get right back up. Others fall and never fully recover. What's the difference? It's not luck. It's not genetics. Research analyzing real-life falls found that fracture risk was 5.5 times greater in falls with sideways landings, but individuals who could rotate to land backward reduced fracture risk by 3.6 times. The people who walk away from falls have something you might be missing right now. Hip and glute strength that gives them the power to catch themselves, rotate their body, and land safely. Your hips and glutes aren't just about walking or standing. They're your body's shock absorbers, your stability system, your insurance policy against the single most dangerous event in aging, the fall that changes everything. So when was the last time you specifically trained these muscles? Not just walked, not just stretched, but actually challenged your hips and glutes to get stronger. If you can't remember, this video was made for you, because what you're about to see are 5 research-backed movements that can rebuild the strength you didn't even know you were losing. And unlike what you've been told, it's not too late. Let's start with what might be the most overlooked exercise in senior fitness, one that you can do lying down, yet it speaks directly to the muscles that hold your entire body upright. Research examining gluteus maximus activation during common exercises found that bridges generated significant muscle activity when performed correctly, with variations producing between 40 to 60% of maximal voluntary isometric contraction. Now, that might sound technical, but what it really means is this. When you do a glute bridge properly, you're activating more than half of your glute's maximum strength potential without ever needing weights, machines, or even standing up. But here's what makes this exercise absolutely irreplaceable for people over 50. A clinical trial, published in the Journal of Orthopedic and Sports Physical Therapy, found that participants who performed hip strengthening exercises, including bridges, had significantly improved pain and disability scores. These weren't just marginal improvements. We're talking about people who struggled with daily activities regaining the ability to move without constant discomfort. And it happened through one simple movement pattern that their bodies had forgotten how to do. Now, let's talk about why this matters specifically for your back. A 2017 study in PLOAs one showed that middle-aged women with back pain had significantly smaller gluteus maximus muscles than similar women without pain. Think about what that means. It's not that back pain causes muscle loss. The muscle loss comes first, and the back pain follows. The glute bridge specifically targets this weakness without placing any stress on your spine. Unlike squats, deadlifts, or even some yoga poses, you're working from the ground up in a completely supported position. Here's the hidden danger you're avoiding by doing this exercise. Most people with weak glutes don't even know they're compensating. Every single time you stand up from a chair, walk across the room, or bend down to pick something up, your body is making a choice about which muscles to use. When your glutes are strong and active, they handle the load. But when they're weak or dormant, your lower back steps in to do a job it was never designed for. Day after day, month after month, you're wearing down your spine instead of using the powerhouse muscles designed for exactly this kind of work. The glute bridge reprograms this pattern, teaching your nervous system to fire the right muscles in the right sequence. So how do you do it safely? Start by lying on a firm surface. Not your soft bed, but a yoga mat or carpeted floor works perfectly. Bend your knees and place your feet flat on the ground, hip-width apart. Keep your arms relaxed at your sides with palms facing down. This is your foundation. Before you even lift, engage your core by gently drawing your belly button toward your spine. Not a hard contraction, just a gentle engagement. Now comes the most important part. Press through your heels, not your toes, to lift your hips off the ground. Many people make the mistake of pushing through their toes, which shifts the work into the quads and away from the glutes. As you lift, Stop when your body forms a straight line from your knees to your shoulders. This is critical. Don't arch your back trying to lift higher. Higher doesn't mean better. At the top position, squeeze your glutes as hard as you can for 2 to 3 full seconds. This isometric hold is where the real strength building happens. Then lower with control, touching down gently, and repeat for 12 to 15 repetitions. Aim for 2 to 3 sets total. Here's your critical form check. If you feel this exercise in your lower back instead of your glutes, you're lifting your hips too high. Lower your range of motion and really focus on that glute squeeze at the top. Quality always beats quantity. For progression, try placing a small pillow or folded towel between your knees. This activates your inner thigh muscles and helps keep your knees from splaying outward, which improves your overall form and alignment. Now, let's move to an exercise that looks almost too simple to matter, yet it targets one of the most critical muscles for preventing the kind of fall that changes your life forever. Here's a statistic that should fundamentally change how you think about fall prevention. Research on fall risk factors found that after age 30, strength and endurance decrease by 10% per decade, and when strength is decreased, what would normally be just a slip or a trip suddenly becomes a full-blown fall. But here's the question nobody asks: which strength matters most? Studies measuring muscle activation found that the clamshell exercise produced between 70 to 82% maximal voluntary contraction of the gluteus medius muscle. That's the side hip muscle responsible for keeping you stable every single time you shift your weight from one leg to another, which happens with literally every step you take. What makes this even more important is what researchers discovered in a 2011 study out of Japan. They showed that the loss of size in the gluteus medius, more than any other muscle in your entire body, is directly associated with a decline in daily movement and overall independence among elderly women. Not the quads, not the hamstrings. This relatively small muscle on the side of your hip is the difference between moving confidently through your day and becoming progressively more limited in what you can do. Every single step you take, whether you realize it or not, requires your gluteus medius to stabilize your pelvis. When you're standing on your right leg and swinging your left leg forward to walk, your right gluteus medius is firing to keep your pelvis level. Without it, your body wobbles with each step, creating a chain reaction of problems. That wobble places dangerous stress on your knees, because they're suddenly compensating for instability that should be controlled at the hip. It increases your fall risk exponentially because your base of support is constantly shifting in ways your body can't predict or control. Here's the hidden danger most people never see coming. Weak hip stabilizers create what medical professionals call Trendelenburg gait, a walking pattern where your hip visibly drops with every step. This doesn't just look unsteady, it is unsteady. It's your body sending a clear signal that it can't support itself properly. And the cruel irony is that the weaker these muscles get, the more you compensate by taking shorter, wider steps, which makes the muscles even weaker. It's a downward spiral that most people don't recognize until they've already lost significant function. So how do you rebuild this critical stabilizer? Lie down on your side on a comfortable surface like a yoga mat or carpeted floor. Bend both knees to 90 degrees, stacking your hips directly on top of each other and keeping your feet together. Rest your head on your arm or use a pillow for comfort. This starting position is crucial because if your hips aren't properly stacked, you won't be working the right muscle. Keep your feet touching throughout the entire movement. They act as your anchor point. Now, slowly lift your top knee as high as comfortable, like a clamshell opening, while keeping your feet together. The key word here is slowly. This isn't about speed or range of motion, it's about control and activation. As you lift, keep your hips stacked vertically. Don't let your pelvis roll backward, which is the most common mistake people make. When you start to roll back, you're recruiting your hip flexors instead of your gluteus medius, and you've completely defeated the purpose of the exercise. Hold at the top for 2 full seconds, feeling the burn in your outer hip, then lower with the same controlled tempo. Repeat this 12 to 15 times per side for 2 to 3 sets. Here's your form checkpoint. The movement should feel small and controlled. If you can lift your knee really high without any effort, you're almost certainly cheating by rotating your pelvis backward. The burn should be focused right on the outside of your hip. That's your gluteus medius working. If you want to progress this exercise, add a light resistance band around your thighs just above the knees for increased challenge. Think about what your body does dozens of times every single day without you even noticing. Walking requires you to balance on one leg with every single step. Climbing stairs means supporting your entire body weight on just one foot while you lift the other. Getting dressed in the morning probably has you standing on one leg while you put on pants or socks. Yet most people never specifically train this fundamental movement pattern, and that oversight becomes dangerous as we age. More than 1 out of 4 older adults falls each year. And here's the truly concerning part. Falling once doubles your chances of falling again. But research on fall prevention found that physical exercises have been shown to reduce fall risk factors by up to 50%. Studies examining what actually causes falls found that physical inactivity and deficits in functional ability, particularly reduced lower limb muscular strength and impaired balance ability, have been identified as independent contributors to falls and fall-related injuries among older adults. The single-leg stance addresses both of these issues simultaneously. It builds the hip strength you need to support yourself while simultaneously training your nervous system to maintain balance when your base of support is cut in half. This isn't just about muscle. It's about the communication between your brain and your body, teaching them to work together in real time to keep you upright. After accumulating medical issues with age, the risk of falling increases, and with aging usually comes what researchers call a wide-based gait, where people walk with their feet farther apart than necessary because they instinctively know their balance is compromised. This compensatory pattern also brings a decrease in gait velocity and step length. You walk slower, you take smaller steps, and every year this gets a little bit worse unless you actively interrupt the pattern. The single-leg stance prevents that deterioration by maintaining single-leg strength and neuromuscular control, which is just a fancy way of saying your body remembers how to balance efficiently. So how do you practice this safely, especially if your balance isn't what it used to be? Start by standing next to a sturdy counter or chair, something within easy reaching distance that you trust to support you if needed. Stand tall with your feet hip-width apart. This is important. Don't start with your feet too close together or you're making the transition harder than it needs to be. Shift your weight completely onto your right leg. You should feel your weight settle into that foot. Now slowly lift your left knee up toward hip height, or as high as feels comfortable for you right now. Don't worry about matching some ideal height. Your current comfortable range is exactly where you should be working. Hold this position for 3 to 5 seconds. That might not sound like much, but if you're really balancing and not just hanging onto the counter for dear life, those few seconds will feel challenging. For an added challenge, once you're comfortable with the basic hold, try this. While balancing on your right leg, slowly drive your lifted left knee forward and back 5 times in a controlled motion. This dynamic movement forces your standing leg to constantly adjust and adapt, which is exactly what happens in real life when you're walking and something unexpected occurs. Lower your foot with control. Don't just drop it and switch to the other leg. Repeat this 5 to 8 times per leg for 2 to 3 sets. Here's your critical form checkpoint. Keep your standing leg slightly soft, meaning don't lock your knee completely straight. A rigid, locked leg actually makes balancing harder and puts unnecessary stress on your joints. Your hips should be doing the stabilizing work, not your lower back. If you start leaning sideways or feel your torso tilting, that's your body compensating because the hip muscles aren't strong enough yet. When you notice that happening, lower the height of your lifted knee until you can maintain a relatively upright posture. Progress this exercise in stages. Start by holding the counter with both hands if you need to. Once that feels stable, transition to using just one fingertip for balance only, not actually supporting your weight. When you're ready, try it with your arms at your sides and no support at all. The ultimate challenge, and this is advanced, is closing your eyes for just 3 seconds while balancing. Look, I'm not going to pretend this is easy. Building strength after 50 requires showing up consistently and listening to your body. But let's be honest about what's at stake here. Each year, there are about 3 million emergency department visits due to falls among older adults, and nearly 319,000 are hospitalized for hip fractures. Nearly 25% of hip fracture patients will die within 1 year of the fracture, and 50% will have major declines in independence. But you're still here. You're still listening, which means you haven't given up on yourself. And that matters more than you know. Because here's the truth that no one talks about. This isn't really about exercises. It's about deciding whether you're going to be someone who maintains their independence, or someone who slowly gives it away, one avoided staircase at a time. Research is abundantly clear. Exercise interventions reduce the risk factors associated with falls by up to 50%, with gains that may last as long as the training is maintained. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to do all 5 exercises every single day. You just need to start. Even 2 days a week makes a measurable difference. Your body wants to be strong. It's designed for it. You're not fighting biology, you're working with it. So here's what I want you to do. Pick just one exercise from this video. Not all 5. Just one. The one that felt most doable for you. And do it twice this week. That's it. Because small, consistent actions compound over time into major results. You've spent your whole life taking care of others, your family, your career, your responsibilities. But this is taking care of the person who makes all of that possible. You. If this video gave you a new perspective, take 2 seconds to hit the like button. It helps this message reach other people who need it. And drop a comment telling me which exercise you're starting with, because when you make that public commitment, you're 65% more likely to follow through. Subscribe if you want more science-backed strategies for staying strong, mobile, and independent as you age. Your strength isn't behind you. It's right in front of you. You just have to reach for it.